Hi, everyone. It is Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for the breakdown. What? I'm your host, Catherine, aka the High Heel Gamer, and today we're breaking down Encoding Bushido. Did I see that right? I think I said that right.
Yep.
And I have the artist and story writer, Jesse Toves. I said it wrong, Tovaz. Toves.
I
Dang it, I
said it
knew I
right.
was going to say it wrong. Never fails. I'm sorry, Jesse.
You got it right. You said
Okay.
Tovis. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Yay. Look, it's always hit or miss with me. How are you doing today, Jesse?
I'm doing all right. I'm actually on the job, like everybody during the COVID times, you guys especially, I'm working from home.
Yeah.
Um, we've got a scant, let me check on the good old interwebs here about how long I've got on the Kickstarter. It's just a few hours.
Yeah, it's getting
Oh,
close, right?
wow.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
really close.
Ooh, that's
And I
exciting.
and I passed 200% fully funded just this morning. So a lot of people, like they say in Kickstarters, towards the end, they just start, oh yeah, I got to get in on that.
I've
Yeah.
heard that so many times by other people who start like Kickstarters. They're like, you start off really, really strong, and then somewhere in the
Yeah.
middle, it just dulls out. And then, like the
Yep.
last 24 hours, it's like you just posted it. It's like a
Yeah.
resurgence.
Like, it's, I have no idea what the consumer term is, but there is, people have studied this thing pretty closely, over the years. And it's just the natural state of people's personalities.
Oh, it's the sense of urgency is what it's
Yeah. I
called.
mean,
I learned that in
Right.
marketing class where you have when
yeah.
they say limited offer or time's running out,
Yeah.
there's a thing that fires off in consumers. It's like sense of urgency, like I gotta get this before it's gone
Yeah.
type of thing.
It's also
See,
a
I
matter
know.
of that whole marketing thing. I didn't see this when it came out. No matter how many times you post, they say you can never post enough because you'll
Yeah,
never get to everybody at the same
correct.
time. It's so
Yeah.
asynchronous that.
It is. The algorithm on social media is just so weird. And then like if you have a mailing list,
Even
everybody
that, yeah,
yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, is this like spam or what is this?"
yeah,
And it's like, what this is. You see my name, you see the title.
yeah. I mean, one of my closest friends emails me, is like, "Hey, man, is this from you?" And like, it was in a personal message. It wasn't even an email. It was like in a personal text. Is this really you? We're like, that's me.
Like, how many other people with my name have your number?
How
Like,
many people know both yours and my nicknames, which we
Right.
use and call each other all the time? If you think somebody knows, that much personal detail, I was
it's like, is this you?
I thought that was hilarious. Known
Oh
the
my
guy for
god,
20 years, and he said, "Is this really you?"
that's that's actually pretty funny. Um, so
20
let's talk
years.
talk a little bit about encoding Bushido. This is issue 7?
It's issue. The Kickstarter is covering issues 1 and 2,
Oh, okay,
and it's actually a completed series of 7 issues,
okay.
which is going to make the end issue. I'm going to tell people this now, that the end issue is going to include just all kinds of unpublished stuff.
Oh,
Cool.
wow.
Yes, I want to. The last issue is going to be issue 7, and then just tons of cool stuff that I'm going to throw into it. Just because I want to show people a lot of parts of my process that didn't fit into the campaign
Huh.
in a
That's
printed
cool.
form. A lot of background, things about my friends who contributed, ideas here and there, and little things, just as a reward, for that
Mhm.
last odd issue.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's actually really cool. A lot of times they're like, go see my website or I'll put it
yeah,
out when I want to. But that's actually a really nice like thank you to everybody, little extra bonuses and
yeah,
they're
yeah,
getting to see your complete work type of I like stuff like that.
yeah. It's I love those. Every movie that comes out, like big visual effects movies, like the Avengers and stuff. I always take a look at those. If I don't buy them, I always take. I can't not look at them. Those coffee table books. That's kind
Yeah.
of what I want to do with the last issue, because the last issue really is like, they say. My friend Carl, Carl Altstetter, who you guys should talk to him too. He's been in the business for years.
Oh
But
really?
he started me on this journey.
Oh
He
wow.
was the guy who years ago. It was almost 10 years ago. We collaborated, like 10 of us, on what was essentially the start of Samurai, the graphic novel. He, just said he put out the theme. He'll say, "I'll collect all of your stuff in one anthology, and it's under the question, what does samurai mean to you?" Right? Just like the flight anthology, just pick a name or a word and go off. Right? So we all did. We never finished what we planned for the anthology. We published one issue, which was one of my favorite things to this day I've ever done.
Oh wow!
But Carl, organized the whole thing, and I took the question in a different way. Instead of saying, "What does samurai mean to me?" I actually asked the first question, which is, "What does samurai actually mean?" And it does not mean warrior, like people, or soldier, like most people in the West. They take that cliche in all the movies. Samurai is always a noble warrior from blah blah blah. No, it's not what it means at all. Or at least that's not the literal meaning.
Okay. Educate us.
Yeah, well, in the course of the book, that's what I hope to do. That was, I took, the idea of, the legacy of cultural destruction, in the modern world, and tried to tell the story of what it really meant back, in, let's say, the first century of, Japanese civilization. What did it mean then? It still means the same thing, regardless of all the technology or all the accumulated culture. It still means essentially one thing, and that's the very last phrase on the very last panel of issue 7, is that, how people say when you create something, you have the end in mind and then it's your job to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had this ending in mind a decade ago.
Dang.
And it's taken this long to get there because, I had to, well, first of all, I wasn't good enough.
Good enough as far as like storytelling or the art part of it? What do you think?
I mean, comics, I'd always loved comics, but I'd never made them. I was a visual effects artist. I had, drawing skills and stuff like that, but I never made comics. So,
okay.
It was a very different thing, so I started making my own comics. I have several other series, Trouble, Guts, and Noir, which is a sci-fi noir series. I have my own personal anthology, which I call Pages of 8. It's three stories. Yeah, I remember sending you the link. But yeah, I just looked at these things and like, I want to get to the level where I can finish Encoding Bushido. And then, I just kind of forgot about it. It was like 6-7 years I forgot about it. But I published my own, when Carl got us all together for that anthology, I took all those chapters that I had already done. I asked him, "Hey man, I'm going to publish this on my own. Is that cool?" I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, that's great. Do it." Right. So I put all my 3 chapters together. And I think that was like 2009, or no, it was like 2015, I think. And that's the best-selling book. Every con I went to, that was consistently the best-selling book I had.
Yeah. Nice.
Even though by that time, other books that I was doing looked better, because I had more practice under my belt, whatever. And, I just decided, like, everybody keeps buying that book. I better just finish it, So 2018, or rather the end of 2017, I started this current series and finished it right after the lockdown.
Wow.
Here we all in lockdown. Everybody's like, I'm bored. I was working my tail off.
Yeah.
To finish the last 2 issues. And I was like, I can do this by summer. I can do, all right, I finished it this summer. Now what do? I got to do the Kickstarter. All right, I got to finish the Kickstarter by Halloween, right?
Yeah.
So I'm 2 weeks early.
Nice. Yeah, that's actually really good. I like that you have those set goals for yourself. Like, I want to have it by summer. It should be ready by October. Is that important to you to have set goal time frames as far as time frame wise?
Here's the thing. Another good friend of mine who you probably also should talk to, Jeremy Burley. We talk all the time. He's one of Carl's best friends. And we talk all the time about systems versus habits, or discipline. And I'm a big fan of, you have to do both. You have to create a system that encourages the habit you want to form. right?
Oh.
So that's the tactic, I took. I created a schedule, but a schedule doesn't work if you don't follow it. What are you going to create to follow a schedule? And that was always, you have to be home at a certain time, and you have to eat at a certain time, and then you have nothing to do but check your schedule, right? It's someplace in what is the what's the phrase, top of mind? Like if it's physically near you, you can't avoid it,
Yeah.
right? So it all started with the purchase of my Microsoft Surface. I bought it just as a write-off, but the portability meant that it created for me a system where I could work anywhere, anytime. I didn't need Wi-Fi. I just needed maybe an outlet for an hour. And that in concert with the schedule, in concert with just the habits that I developed, it made it possible. 168 color pages in 2.5 years. So.
And I was getting ready to ask you, like, if you're like a physical, like, calendar to-do list kind of guy, or are you digital, like set alarm clocks, like, okay, 3:00, bam, alarm goes off, this is my hour to write type of thing?
I had one document, in Google Docs. It was my schedule for completion, which listed every single task in a broad fashion. That you divide the discrete tasks of making a comic book into, you have to do thumbnails, or rather, your script, your thumbnails, your layouts, your inks, your colors, your final editorial, your pagination, right? So I had all those tasks according to, there are 25 pages per issue. Each task has this many discrete numbers. When you fill out the number, that task is complete. You move on to the next. So it looks like a building block.
Okay.
It looks like Legos. Like a typical spreadsheet, but in a very broad, chunky way. So once I developed the habit of working every day, it's easy to fill out that simple Google Doc, and that kept me on schedule throughout the whole 2.5 years.
Now, oh no, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just like looking at it because it's all, when you fill it out, it's a simple formula. 25. What is it? 25 over 25 tasks equals 1. It's integer based. So it's a fraction. If I finished one page, the fraction would be 1 divided by 25, which would give you a percentage completion towards the number 1. And every time I see a number 1, that means I'm done. Because I filled out, okay, there are 25 discrete tasks in, let's say, 25 pages of inking. Each page is worth, 1 point to a total of 25. And, by the end of it, you get 100%. It's like taking a test.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of like a completionist level type of thing, like in video games. Like, you have like 10 achievements. You want these 10 achievements because they're reachable and obtainable.
Yeah, and then that made it it gave it a global view that was really simplified, instead of like people use Slack and all of this other, like minutia. Just you get lost in it. Is panel 3 on page 2 of issue 3? You just get lost in the details. Make everything an integer, just 1. If you can boil it down to this one task on one page, keep it simple in your head, and then it starts to flow. So that was my favorite thing. That one Google Doc kept me so focused.
Now, did you give yourself enough like wiggle room for in case something happens type of thing, do you color code your Google spread? No color code.
It's really so it's so simple. It didn't need to have color.
Okay.
I think it was 7 issues, 7 rows, what they call it, in a spreadsheet, 7 rows per issue, and then several columns per task. So it's literally this big on the screen. That's it. Is this tiny little spreadsheet, and you can see it all in one chunk where you are, so it starts to look kind of like a, like a wedge that's kind of moving this way until it's a solid block.
Okay.
So that's it. Just keep it unbelievably simple, even though the complexity is managed deeper in the cells. so you can drill down and it gets a little more, fine-tuned. But the global view is always what I'm worried about. Am I making progress?
That's actually good for those that are starting and don't know where, like what to
Yeah.
do. It's good that you said all of that, because a lot of times people that get started are like, okay, I have this idea. I sort of know how to execute it, but how do I get from point A to point
Sort of
Z?
know.
Yeah, like, so I like that you gave us like a detailed description of how you set your schedule and your point system, because it's actually, it does help with certain people's mentality too. Like
It does move very slowly. That a chart like that could drive some people really crazy because, I just, updated all these pages and it just went like this, like that. It's so small. But by the
Mhm.
time I reached the halfway point and it looked like a solid wedge, when you build a wall one brick at a time, it's like there's 300 bricks in the wall
Yeah,
and you have 300 days. Yeah, that's going to look slow.
yeah,
But once you get to that halfway point, you're like, yeah, I'm really making progress,
yeah. And
It
I
starts
mean,
to look real.
if you rush something, it's gonna look sloppy. It's gonna look, you're gonna miss something because you're rushing through it. So
Yeah.
slow and
There's
steady wins the race a lot of the time. So,
yeah, exactly. And to me, like a friend, my Jeremy and I were talking about this a lot. And he thinks I took off like a rocket. But literally with 2.5 years of progress is not, it's just, we used to have a monthly meeting. We call it K&K. It's Carl started the meeting, right? We would just meet for coffee once a month. And every month I would have like 10 new pages or something, like, and all this stuff done and everybody shows their stuff. And here's, a couple of guys don't come in with anything, but here I am, I always got new pages, I always got new edits or something. So he's like, wow, man, he's really tearing up that book, but it was years, so
yeah,
to him, it was like overnight. To me, it's that thing that people say all the time. Oh, it was an overnight success. I'm like, no, I've been working on this forever. So you're like, you try to explain that to people, because they
yeah.
can only see the finished product. That
That's everything I always preach. I always say that to, like, so I'm a very big into video games, and I used to stream, but now I just record and upload to YouTube. And a lot of the times I have done panels or talked to people starting off, and I'm like, you're always looking at the end product. Like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
always forget that the person's been doing this since like 2012 when streaming
Their
first started off.
perspective is so off. It's
Yeah,
like,
it
what's
is.
gonna
It
do?
is.
It's crazy.
And yeah, and it is a lot of time and effort put into what you do, especially because you have to make sure things are lining up. You have to make sure the story is flowing the right way. You have to make sure the characters in this panel look close to the same
Yeah,
as the next panel, and then that's, especially if you're drawing like a character you're not used to drawing, and you're like, oh wait.
yeah. There's that element of the likeness that gets lost. Even in my book, I kept thankfully I kept the number of characters to a minimum. So there's really no way you could mistake some of these characters, and they were robots anyway, so they didn't
Yeah,
have, as long this guy's got the weird antennas, but this guy has things on his face, and this
yeah,
guy has, there's only one girl,
yeah.
or
um
something like that.
So I read in your bio that after watching Toy Story and Jurassic Park, you
Yeah,
wanted to go into like the special effects
animation.
and animation field. What was it exact? Do you remember what was it exactly about Toy Story and Jurassic Park that made you go, I like this. This is what I want to do.
Uh, well, I was already kind of obsessed with computer graphics at that time because we're talking like this is 1990, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yep.
and I'd been working at a newspaper back home, and they had bought tons of new computers, and they asked me, "What kind of software do you want?" And I was like, "I don't know. Let's try this," But I started reading a lot, and stuff started showing up on television, and those movies came out, and it just kind of it kind of blows your mind when you're used to watching stop motion and the old optical way of doing things, and then you see something that's digital, and you swear to God it's real. You know,
Yeah.
like especially in the case of like Jurassic Park, you know, it's that first shot of the T-Rex coming out in the rain, and you just look at it like that is the smoothest, slickest, you know, lifelike thing I have ever seen. It's impossible. You know, it's that magical moment, you know, that Asimov, you know, quote, you know, if it's significantly advanced enough, it looks like might as well be magic
Yeah.
because you have no idea how that's done, right? And I had kind of an idea because I knew what computer graphics could do to a point, you know, especially because I was doing a few of my own computer graphics, simple, like really blocky, chunky little things. I was doing this in college.
Oh wow.
And you know, when you see Jurassic Park and the thing is breathing and alive and stomping around, you're like, oh man, I'm in kindergarten still, you know.
Compared to all of that.
Yeah, I gotta get in there, you know. So it drove me nuts. I drove everyone around me nuts. Just blah 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 blah. Silicon graphics, blah 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 blah. Nobody knows what I'm talking about, you know. Like it's like, Jesse, you got to get the hell out of here. My friend, I'll say this right now. I haven't talked to him in years, but an old friend of mine named Eddie Siglenza caught me at the grocery store, and he looked at me and said, like, "Hey man, I don't think there's anybody around here in your league anymore. You got to leave." You know, because you know I had the luck of the draw. You know, I had the budgets of both my university and the newspaper where I was working up tied up in all of this computer graphics stuff because they were like, I was the only one interested in it. They kept, you know, like, we're just going to spend all this money because we think there's a future here. What do you think we should do? So they gave me all this responsibility in coming up with purchasing decisions and all that. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just, you know, suggesting whatever. But you know, with all the work that I was producing, you know, it was like a leap, you know, that publishing made back then. And Eddie and I worked at the same newspaper, but he caught me at the store and said, you don't belong here anymore, man. You got to get out of here, or you're just going to sit here and rot. You know, the island doesn't care. You know, they could give a hoot about, you know, Jurassic Park or graphics or computers and whatever. The island life is the island life. You know, if I was going to make any leaps and bounds, I had to get off of that island. So, and you know, right after, God, I want to say it was right after like Terminator 2 or one of those movies. I'm forgetting the timeline now, but it was definitely after Toy Story. I was just like, I just gotta get out of here. You know, I was an art director at a local magazine, doing like fashion shoots and all this. I'm like, I'm just bored out of my mind, right? Like, just like
so not in your league.
Yeah, and just sitting around like looking at the guys perfectly happy, you know, like I'm just miserable in the corner.
It's like, I don't care if the shirt matches the shoes. Like, I care about how do they make.
So what do you think this page should look like? I don't know. Put the text over here, put the picture there, and leave me alone, you know?
Now, I'm a big fan of the behind the scenes kind of stuff too. And in all honesty, none of that really hit me until I saw the behind the scenes of Monsters Inc. And they were talking about how they made Sully's fur like move and how long it took them because they had to animate every single little piece.
They had to do the R&D. You know, there's a great quote in The Incredibles behind the scenes where they were talking about the girl's hair, the long hair. And Brad Bird is asking one of the TDs, you know, one of the artists, like, so what is it? What's the problem with long hair? And one of them answers, well, in CG, long hair is really theoretical. And he was like, theoretical? It can't be theoretical. We got a movie to make, man. You got to make it not theoretical. What do you mean theoretical? And, you know, because they actually had to come up with the science, the physics, and then the back end, you know, as well as the front end of the software. You know, that takes years. That's, you know, software research and development. It's actually theoretical physics at certain points, you know.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of them, and I'm like, there's no way I would have been able to do half the stuff that they do because it's intense. It's crazy. So when that T-Rex is definitely believable. Yeah, it is. So when you came to California, was it tough to make that jump? Did you have friends in California that you could, you know? Talk
I
to the
moved,
big move, to the people that are like, man, I want to go
yeah,
to the big city, but I'm scared.
yeah, it was nuts. I literally I was living with my sister back home. I literally gave her like 4 days notice. I'm like, hey,
Oh,
I
wow.
want to tell you this 4 days. I'm going to California with two of my friends.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, it was one of those crazy, like just spur of the moment. All right, I'm doing this. I saved up all this money. I'm going. It's like,
Um,
and I was in San Francisco first. I was in
oh,
Vallejo, California. So we'd go back in and around the city to, look for jobs and whatever.
okay.
But then I moved down to San Diego with my other sister who was already here. So I wasn't completely alone. I had
Oh, okay.
family in
Okay.
the States. But when
Yeah,
it
because
came to,
90s is different than 2020. Like for
yeah,
those that that don't know the
different
90s, it's like
world.
so different back then. So I can imagine it being
Yeah.
scarier back then than if somebody was to leave now because they have like Airbnb and
Yeah,
find a
there's
movie.
yeah. Well, the only thing that's really daunting, I think, now compared to then is, the difference really is just the economy. It does feel, even when I look at it, it feels
Mhm.
different.
Yeah.
So uh, don't really know what else to compare. Publishing is different. The visual effects industry is different. When I
Yeah.
arrived in California, it was the interactive CD-ROMs had just taken a tank, or taken a bomb. The market dropped out of
Yeah.
that multimedia entertainment. But all of the stuff that it created, the internet was starting to boom. It was the very early stages of the internet. All of that started to take off. Movies, digital, visual effects were starting to take off. And as soon as I moved to San Diego, it was less than a few months where I started uh, finding work, in digital visual effects and digital advertising and stuff like that. So it was a nice curve, because I had gotten here during definitely an economic downturn during the '90s,
Mhm.
one of the bigger ones especially. So
Now, you've worked on Battlestar Galactica, and one of my favorites, I loved Defiance. Like, it was such a great show. Like, it really was. We would always tune into it. Was it hard to transition from that special effects world to the comic book world? Now, I know you said it was tough to figure out, like, how difficult was that to transition from one to the other?
people that talk about movies and comics being different. Well, the process is also completely different,
Okay.
So, but I include a lot of my processes and techniques from visual effects into my comics. I mean, because they're
Okay.
both making images. There's a lot of overlap there,
Okay.
but the actual finished product, of course, completely different.
Yeah.
And a lot of the approaches creatively have to be different. You're not dealing with the same narrative structures sometimes because people just how long is the series versus this is a 1 hour episode versus a 24-page comic. You can't tell the same amount of story in either.
Yeah.
uh, Even though they in Defiance they thought they could be kind of
Yeah.
clever about stuff, but
Yeah, Sean, Defiance was an awesome series.
I had
I
fun working
liked
on it was so much fun to work on.
it. It was different, and I think that's what it was. It was just, the
Yeah.
characters looked different, the story was different. Even though it's like apocalyptic and all this other stuff, it
And
still
it
was a
had video
different
game
story.
roots.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of gamers watch the show. So yeah, I was really surprised by that on Twitter, especially that there's a whole crowd of gamers who specifically I got in touch with just because they watched the show. It's like, hey, you worked on that? Yeah, blah blah blah. I still talk to all these people today,
That's cool.
online. So that's been what, 5 years now, four or
Yeah.
5 years. So I was
Yeah,
like,
dang.
we
It
still
doesn't
all
feel
hang
like that
out
long.
once in a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
if not for me, I tell you, that was an intense show to work on. But,
Was it?
yeah. But I tell you, the cultural legacy of Battlestar Galactica was the one that still to this day. That's people still come out say, you worked on that. You're like, really? You're like, people in visual effects can't believe that we did that stuff back then
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
was we were really pushing the hardware and the software past certain limits.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say because it's not the same software or hardware that's seen now. It was like beginning stages, correct? Like,
Oh no, it is there's a lot of the same tools. It's just there's some of these software upgrades in the number of years make it so much easier to do things now. We were there were rendering techniques that weren't available back then, and if they were available, they took forever. Now you got all these. You can do stuff in real time now in Unreal that is better in quality in real time than we had back starting on things like Battlestar and whatever in real time. On some NVIDIA RTX cards. Just you have a couple of them in your computer. Yeah, we can render the whole show on one box. We used to render 100 shots with 2,000 to 3,000 different rack-mounted CPUs. We would rent. We need another 1,000 CPUs. Go rent some, bring them in. And we installed like 10 new air conditioners just to cool the room.
Because I'm sure it would be like super hot. Like I couldn't even imagine. Like
it was nuts. I remember working at one place where the server actually burst into flames.
Oh my God!
It got so hot in there, it bursted the air. Just like whoa! Fire alarms going off. Everybody leaves the building.
Wow!
Actually,
so I saw
my own computer has burst into flames at least twice. So
oh God! Well, I hope you have like several fire extinguishers in the house. Like, okay, this one's the electrical one. Let's do this.
Yeah. Like, it was at work, and it was a network card. In the computer, they just couldn't take it. They were just poof, like, what's that smell? Started looking around, and there's an orange glow near my legs. Like, oh crap, it's on fire.
Oh my God!
2 times.
So got it for Christmas, desk extinguisher. Like, got it. Yes. Sending it with a nice little bow around it. Like, that's your Christmas gift. Like, you're welcome.
My fire extinguisher is 10 feet away, so
you need one closer. Like you need it like right
no, I'm pretty quick. So,
well, that's good. That's good to know. So I saw that you do 3D modeling as well on the computer, and that you used to play video games. I don't know if you still play video games. Are there any possibilities that you might move into like the cartoon world or not cartoon, but animated world or video game world?
Oh, I already did. I worked on some Sony titles way back in the day, Twisted Metal.
How did I miss that information?
I may not have included it.
Oh, well, that's probably why.
It's stuff that when I'm in the zone, I don't think about the past. Or I try not to, except for Battlestar Galactica. That was always special. So, but I worked on animated series like Roughnecks, the Starship Troopers Chronicles, Max Steel.
Oh wow!
I worked on some stuff for what was that show? Dan Dare. It was a British show. Captain Scarlet. I'm starting to remember all these shows.
Wow, you've got like a really impressive like resume.
Can't sit still. That's all.
And sometimes that's not a bad thing, because we get blessed with all these awesome stories and contributions to shows that we love. And sometimes that's good to kind of know your zone, know your limits, but also try to push those limits as you did with branching out into the comic book world.
Yeah, I gotta tell you though, like a lot of that was accidental.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the whole video game thing. I started my own advertising agency in San Diego with a friend of mine. And I remember seeing this club that was using the software that I was using for 3D for advertising. I went to that club meeting, and all of them, it was at a studio. And, one of them saw my work, and I was like, hey, wait, you want to work here? And I'm like, I'll give it a shot, then I sold my agency to my partner, and just said, I'm going to do this for a while. That was totally by accident. It was just me wandering around. Wow. And then at that company, it started to kind of get a little, it's time to go. Well, another guy, said, hey, up in LA, they're hiring like crazy. You should just come up here with a reel, or just come up here with something on a CD. They don't care, because it was that early where you didn't have demo reels. And I'm sitting, at dinner and like, yeah, we should do it, right? And like, I look at two of my friends and like, let's go tomorrow. So we like skip work and drive up to LA, and we all get hired that day, and we drove back down and quit.
Oh my god, dude, that's like so like the LA dream. Like you get there, like you get this like 9 to 5 job, and then you go to an interview, and they're like, you're hired right on the spot. Like that's such the LA dream you just lived.
Yeah, well, we had, it was a really tight crew of guys at this place in San Diego, and some of them were already in there, so they gave us they opened the door, and we just walked through it. But it was that, like it's time to go feeling, and it's like, so what's out there? And then you just start, looking around. Same thing has happened, so many times. Like Battlestar Galactica was me just getting a favor from, or a favor being returned to me from somebody else.
Oh, wow.
Like we were, companies all over LA were pitching for Battlestar Galactica. And the company I was at the time, Foundation Imaging, did a pitch. It was a good pitch, but we didn't get it. Oh. And some of the guys from Foundation Imaging ended up working at the place that did get it, and that was Zoic Studios.
Oh.
But one of the guys who ended up supervising at Zoic Studios remembered that I did this big favor for him on that pitch from Foundation Imaging. And he gave me the plum modeling job of building the first CGI Cylon. So I got to do the first Cylon you see in Battlestar Galactica from head to toe. I built that guy.
Kindness does pay off, people. Don't be a jerk.
Lee Stringer, he supervised a lot of stuff, but he actually emailed me the day it happened. He said, I got into Zoic. We got Battlestar Galactica. I'm a man of my word. You get to model the Cylon. I was like, yeah.
That's so awesome. That's like super cool. So are you a firm believer that networking is like important in people's?
Oh yeah, it goes without saying. But even I would say that I'm terrible at networking.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm not that gregarious ordinarily. So because I'm a typical artist. I want to sit at my desk and work. Do my thing. And try to get it out there. Yeah. But when doing conventions, more recently within the last 10 years, doing conventions was one of those big eye openers. It was like you really can't do some of this stuff alone. And I remember it was actually I think it was Rob Liefeld. The first time I met Rob Liefeld. We were all of us were talking because Rob is a really good friend of my friend Carl. They worked together way back in the day, Extreme Studios. Actually, I think it was Rob that gave Carl his first job in comics, I believe. And, we were all sitting at this one table and just talking about, like who knows who and what knows, what do you have to do? And like, even Rob was like, at a certain point, if you can't do the job, it doesn't matter how good a networker you are,
Yeah.
So it might be important, but it's only part of a salad.
Yeah.
I think that's the metaphor we came up with.
I like that. It's part of the salad.
To me, a salad without a good dressing is just a bunch of freshly mowed grass. And then you can't just drink a bottle of salad dressing. It's evil. So you got to put it all together. You got to have the bacon bits. You got to have whatever some lettuce and kale. There's a lot of ingredients in there. And even then you could still screw up a salad.
Yeah, true story.
Take the whole metaphor really far.
Yeah.
So
you have the reel for your visual effects stuff and animation and things like that. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to create a reel for comic books, or like how would someone go about presenting something like that for those that are interested?
That's just having a portfolio, an organized and precise portfolio. Are you a penciler? Are you a colorist? Are you this? Are you that? Right now, with all of my own work, I could put together a portfolio for all of those things because I did it. I did my entire book by myself. I could say I could go in for a writing assignment and show them my scripts. I can go in for, just pure layouts. I have all the layouts for my book. I can go in for inks. I can go in for colors. I can do the pagination and editorial.
It's good to show your range in the portfolio. Not just like you're finished.
Maybe not range.
Okay.
Especially in comics, you want to have some focus.
Oh, okay.
Especially, Yeah, just really because people don't hire auteurs like me.
Gotcha. Okay, so you
That
want to
doesn't
have
happen.
like, this is my specialty. It's actually the coloring, and this is my specialty. It's actually like background stuff. That's what you mean by the focus. Okay.
Yeah, compartmentalize. Yeah.
Okay.
But if I were to do something like strictly penciling, or if I had to do one thing, it'd probably be the layouts.
Oh,
The initial stages. I think that just because that's the first time where a comic to me seems real. It's not in thumbnails. It's not in the writing. You got to get to at least the layout stage. The raw pencils, and then it feels real. Then you're telling a story. It'll finally come together. You can see where you're going right, where you're going wrong. And if I had to do just one job in comics, it would be layouts.
okay.
Pencils. I'm
Okay.
not the I like my inks. I like other people's inks better. you know,
Yeah.
and I can say
We're
that about
always our own
anything.
worst critic, because I
Yeah,
actually liked what
Mhm.
I like. I liked everything that I saw. So it's not like
I appreciate that.
it's not like it was just like, oh, this is terrible. No, it was really great. Like, it was really good, everything that you did. Uh, so
All right.
with, yeah, I mean, everybody knows I don't blow smoke up people's butts. That's not how I do things. I don't have a poker face.
Well, you said you were Dominican, right? Yeah, you're not capable
Yes,
of that.
I have no poker face at all. Like, this is why I don't gamble, because I'd be terrible at it. I'd be like,
She's got a
so,
pack of aces, man.
like, yes,
It seems like I do. Yeah.
yeah, like so 100%. So with Encoding Bushido, you said this is issue 1 and 2, correct?
For this Kickstarter, yep.
Are you planning on doing Kickstarter for the other ones as well?
Kind of. I hope not. What I'd always planned to do is try to. The pandemic threw everything for a loop that way. What I had planned to do is try to raise enough money to keep doing conventions after the first Kickstarter, and that was the initial plan anyway. Can't do that until next year, so I might do one Kickstarter, and then after that, just go straight self-publishing again.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of people who do repeated Kickstarters, and I could do that. I have to be honest, Kickstarters. Everybody's telling me, "Oh, it's the hardest thing in the world. It's like starting a business." Like, this is a piece of cake compared to actually making the book. That was hard. It took me 2 years. It took me a month to build a Kickstarter. That was nothing. But no, I don't like milking the audience that way. But that's personal. I might have to do it 1 or 2 more times because there are no conventions.
Correct.
That's just the reality of it. I really enjoy using Comixology. That's where most of my digital comics are.
Yeah.
That's been consistent and perennial for me. It's not a lot of money, but it gets out there.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to do for now. But yeah, there are plans for maybe one more Kickstarter, but not until I see how the world's going, early next year. Because hopefully, if somebody does their work, we do what we need to do, we can start traveling regularly and getting big conventions again. And I don't have to keep emailing people to join my Kickstarter.
Don't have to get the text message like, is this really you? Like, is it you?
Is this you again? Yeah.
Do you do conventions only on the West Coast, or do you travel?
I've always wanted to do at least one non-West Coast show.
Okay.
I haven't. Ordinarily, I can't because I work still, and I can't spend that much time away. Even though it's just a weekend, and like when you're flying over the weekend, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
So, I really wanted to do New York, but a lot of those shows, East Coast shows, the bigger ones are super competitive. So you gotta have something to show. You never go to a show empty-handed.
Yes.
So if I had a big enough following for Encoding Bushido, I was hoping to get bigger shows. But the shape the world's in, the shape that the convention scene is in, nobody knows. So it looks like I'm gonna have to do more virtual stuff, and more talking to you guys.
I'm always like, I have had so much fun talking to you, learning so much. Like, you're super interesting. You can always come back on the show. Like, always. Door, or should I say webcam is always open to you.
The infrared camera will always be open.
Like I said, if something pops up
I'm a little
behind
disappointed
you,
people didn't get the night camera.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if
The
something
night
pops
vision.
up behind you, I'm out. Like, I'm out. Like, I'm so not staying. I'm like, and I'm done.
It's Halloween, man. I did it on purpose. You know.
Oh yeah.
I'm such a scaredy cat. Like, that's such a true story. Like, I'm always like, horror movies are just terrible for me. I can't deal. The only
You gotta
scary
have
movies I've seen are like in the 80s, and that's because my mom was like,
Oh, those are-
we're having family night. I'm like, what is wrong with you, woman? Like, why are we watching The Exorcist? I'm like 9. Like, what are you doing?
Well, horror movies in the '80s took such a dramatic shift, you know, with Nightmare on Elm Street and all this crazy stuff. And like,
Yeah.
you know, that the
Poltergeist.
genre bending started to take off. There was a lot of sci-fi horror, you know, Event Horizon, all those other kind of.
Yeah.
You know, they started to mix genres more with horror. You know.
Yeah.
But my favorite was definitely like House and the Evil
House.
Dead movies.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You know, they started to really infuse humor into it. And I love it.
I can't even. Like, I do not laugh. I'm like, how do you guys? Why are you guys laughing? It's not funny. Like, this is like real life. Like, this could really. And I think that's what it was, because it was like 80s horror movies, and then you had unsolved mysteries, and the guys like, the killer's still out there. I'm like, it's Jason Voorhees. I know it. like it's just, when you're 10 and 11, you're just meshing everything together, and it's just too much for me to handle.
Yeah, it's sensory overload, but you know that was my favorite time of film. You know, like
Lost Boys.
Lost Boys, yeah,
Halloween,
Lost
yeah.
Boys,
Keep,
Halloween.
y'all can keep all of that.
That's my
I'm good.
jam.
I'm good watching my Disney princesses. I'm quite okay.
Well, hey, you know, there's, you know, as an animator, everything that comes out of Disney is mandatory viewing. Doesn't matter if it's Frozen or, you know, some of the more serious stuff, like their short films over the years.
Yeah.
Like Destino is one of the most beautiful things I think has ever been made on film, you know? And that's just because of the Salvador Dali, you know, full realization of imagery of Salvador Dali's imagination. And that was a Disney project, you know, like, and it's the same studio that did, you know, Frozen,
Yeah.
Little Mermaid.
Well,
you know?
I'm like so in love with their shorts, like Loop and Float. I can't remember.
That's
the
funny
one
you
of
mentioned Float. Bobby Rubio. I've been watching Bobby Rubio online for years.
Really?
Right, we both lived in San Diego, and he used to do his own comics. I think he still does. You know, just does his own comics on the side. That's where he kind of started in storyboarding. And then I watched him. You know, he got into DreamWorks, and then into like Paramount, all these big companies, and then Pixar. And then I saw Float come out. I was like, damn, that guy really took off. You know.
Yeah.
He's one of the coolest guys in animation. If you ever follow his Twitter. And,
Okay.
he loves the Padres and all the old San Diego teams, even though they moved away, like the Chargers.
Yeah. You see, I could watch Monster House. Monster House is not scary enough because it's cartoony enough. I could watch Monster House. That's fine.
That's a cool one.
Monster House.
Monster House is
You know, it is here's me being technical. Monster House has the distinction of being one of those films where they didn't want to render hair.
No.
So if you look at all, you know, the characters, their hair is physical, right? It's polygons. It's not discrete, or you know, the implicit surfaces that, you know, are rendered hairs in most animated features. And I remember somebody telling me on one of the teams, you know, one of the guys was like so disappointed, like they just told us we're not going to render hair. It's going to look so stupid, you know. And I was like, when you're inside baseball, you know, and you talk to guys behind the scenes on projects like these, they're like, "Oh, it's such a drag. The renderer doesn't do hair," and I'm just like sitting there like, "Really? You know, your renderer can't do hair?"
That's funny.
Yeah, they decided the render times at some point. You know, the render times are going to take too long. The movie won't come out on time, so we're not going to render hair.
That's crazy. That's why it looks like. I mean, I still love it. I think it was
Still looks
great.
great,
Yeah, but
you know,
but I mean, you guys are professionals, so you guys are like, no, this sucks.
like, this ain't gonna
It's
work,
okay.
guys.
Just take it. You
Yeah,
guys did the best you could.
you know, like that's well, next movie, you know, we'll move on.
Try a little harder.
A little harder next time. You can do this. Okay.
Oh, that's too funny. Oh my gosh. Oh, so how much longer we have on Encoding Bushido
It's like
Kickstarter?
14 hours.
14 hours.
14 hours, people. Get your butts out there. Get on Kickstarter.
And
Go get.
While we were talking, I picked up another 2 backers.
Hey, see?
Yeah.
See,
So
people?
113 backers here.
You do not want to miss out on Encoding Bushido.
I appreciate that.
I'm not gonna lie. I get lost easily sometimes, but I just reread like the part and I was like, oh duh. But that's just me. I'm slow. So, and we all know that. They've been watching long enough to know that I'm slow. But the story is really good. Come on, if you guys are watching the breakdown and you're just now realizing I'm slow, like go back. You guys see that I'm slow. I mean, I have my moments. I am smart every now and again, but most of the time I'm a little
for special events.
I do. I save it for in-person meets because I'm like, okay, now I have to like really present myself. But most of the time,
getting people who agree.
You see, look, Bradford knows I'm a special one. Takes me a minute, but the story
art
is
looks incredible though. Yeah, too.
Yeah, it did. So it's really well done, despite what he's like. Everybody like, I'm okay, but people, no, it's really good. You did a great job.
I can't wait for you guys, everybody, to see issue 7 because that.
Yeah, I'm like so excited.
Yeah,
Especially since you said like the final
yeah,
scene. I'm like, I need to know. Like, I need to know.
So, it'll be 10 years and I get to that one page.
But you're getting there. Well, you're getting there. You got there, and that's the important part, right?
You're there.
Super gratifying.
And I always ask that, and because I've had, like being able to physically hold what I've dreamt about, and it's such a overwhelming thing, and then like I'll put it away and then I'll see it again. I'm like, oh, I did that. Oh my god, yeah. Like it's so I know how important it is, and whether it took 10 years or 1 year and you just like didn't see family or daylight. The important part is that you get there, that you believe in yourself, like you set those schedules, set those, daily goals. Like, okay, this is what I need.
I gotta tell you though, at least 3 times I went to the hospital for stress. At least 3 times. Because I'm really bad at, self-care, that whole get your sleep, eat right, or I eat right, but getting sleep and not stressing out, that's hard for me.
What, sleep?
Yeah.
So
Jack doesn't sleep.
Who?
I now have to force myself to sleep because I ended up in the hospital as well over stress because my body was showing symptoms as if I was having a heart attack, but I was not.
Palpitations or what do they call it? Arrhythmias.
Yeah. But I had to be hospitalized because I've had a heart attack already. So there's that.
You gotta be super careful.
Yeah, exactly. So self-care is important. Schedule that in, like in between every so hours. Like, okay, go meditate.
Super serious, yeah.
Go eat some almonds. Almonds makes you happy. Have a glass of red wine.
Keep it together,
like some candles.
Oh no, I stopped drinking a long time ago.
Oh, no, I can't stop drinking. I lose time. That's how I get stressed, is the stopping of the drinking. I'm like, oh my god, I can't. I need to.
I've never been one for meditation or all of that other stuff, but
I can't do meditation. I can't do like soothing music. Like that's not a thing for me. I actually play video games and get aggressive, but have fun anyway because I'm like playing with people that make me laugh. So
the outlet, it's got to be there.
So I make sure I have time for that. But I do. I have the occasional wine. It goes into a progress. It's like wine, Bailey's, Tito's vodka.
Gotta do the roundup.
Yeah. It's like, how stressed am I today? On a scale of wine.
I thought you were talking about mixing those for a second. I was
Oh,
like,
no. It's a scale. It's a different, like, how stressed are you scale? Like, do you just need half a glass of wine, or do you need, like, the whole bottle of Tito's? Like, where are you?
What are we talking about here? Is this a pitcher or is it a wine glass? What are we talking about? Give me the whole barrel.
It's like, am I okay with wine and some almonds, or do I need like McDonald's #1, like
this
large size?
That's a good one. The whole stress. Yeah, do I need a drink or do I need cake? Stress.
Exactly. Like, which level am I at? Do I just need somebody to talk to laugh, or do I need to go out and just forget that I'm in this world? Like,
yeah. There's also that. Do I need to go for a walk or do I need to punch something? It's what pressure needs. Is it high pressure? Is it low pressure?
Exactly.
It's a thin line.
Am I playing Mario Brothers or am I playing Call of Duty? Like, what am I doing? Is it Sonic?
That's a better.
What is Bop It Extreme? That sounds like a
Bop It Extreme. Bop It Extreme is not allowed in my house because I tried to play it at Target and I swear to God I was almost gonna break it. And one of the workers that knows me was like, "Dude, if you break it, you have to buy it." And I'm like, I don't want this thing in my house. Yeah.
Well, I remember Bop It, but Bop It Extreme.
Bop It Extreme is so annoying. It's like you got to twist things and pull things, and it's just too much fun. Yeah, it's like boring.
There's activity there.
Yeah, it's like I don't need this. It's bad enough I have to remember it's just too much. It's just too much. Yeah, it's like too much. Well, I'm done rambling. And I've taken up like an hour of your time, and I know you're a super busy man, and I don't want to do that to you.
I appreciate this, guys. It really has been, the Kickstarter has been the most eye-opening experience of my professional career.
That's good. Always learning. That's always a good thing.
Yeah. If you guys ever want to talk just about doing Kickstarters at some point, let me know.
That would actually be really a good thing. Like,
we
would have to actually take you up on that, because we have a lot of people that are like, there are a lot of viewers that are like, well, how do I even approach that? Yeah, what is it like? So I would actually probably take you up on that, because we have a lot of people that are scared or don't know or just curious, so.
Yeah, there's a lot to do, but you can, like I said before, you can boil it down. There's some people who do these every month.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a way to do it.
Yeah, just gotta.
Like anything, So. Yeah. Anyway, I appreciate it, guys. I got to get back to work.
Yeah, Jesse, thank you so much. Everybody go to the Kickstarter. You've got probably 13 hours now. Yeah. So go support Encoding Bushido. Go support Jesse. If nothing else, I'm sending you there. So go. And as always, like, share, subscribe. Go. I think Jesse's on Instagram. Maybe I might be lying. I'm not totally sure. Okay, you are. So go follow Jesse too, so you can see all his wonderful creations and artwork. You can go to his website, which we'll put the link in somewhere in the comments or description. I don't know what Jack's doing with his life. Go share, subscribe. Go to issueswithshow.com. I think that's our website. I'm not really sure. Don't at me at Twitter. And as always, I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye, everyone.
We're out.
I don't know what Jack's doing.
I like to see you dance. There we go.